All right, so talking about financial stewardship, and meaning that we are good ambassadors of what God gives us and utilizing the things that He gives us. And we'll talk a little bit about some different scripture from all this in just a few minutes. I'm just kind of going over what we'll be talking about. This first part's just kind of the basics of budgeting, talking about tithing and giving, baby steps, cash flow, emergency fund. Um, Obviously, we're not doing lunch. This is the same presentation that I used in class that I taught. And then we're going to go into some things about getting out of debt and planning for the future. Some of that part might be on a part two. We'll just kind of see how things go. So let me just start out by saying that number one, I am not by any means or anything like that a Dave Ramsey guy, as far as like I'm not a part of his Financial Peace University and all those people that are certified to do that. I think that's great. I think those people are amazing, and I recommend anybody going to one of those classes and doing those things. I did just do a lot of studying on different financial stewardship and things. Honestly, the Ramsey stuff is great. It really is one of the best out there. What his principles he teaches is great. So I'm not taking credit for any of these things. A lot of stuff that I did take from him. Like I said, I do encourage you, if they have one of those classes, to go somewhere. But these are giving you some of those principles and some others that are kind of tying into how to be a good steward of your money. So first of all, kind of some of the warnings in the Bible that about that. Talking about keeping your life free from the love of money and be content with what you have. Man, it's one of the hardest things to do because we live in a society that everybody is looking to have the next best thing and looking to their neighbors and what they have. Um, I can't talk about this enough. I mean, we know this and you encounter in your everyday life, and the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. It's not the root of all evil, but it's the root of all kinds of evil. I mean, if you look at different things going on in our world, and issues in the government, issues in war, drugs, all those different things, man, a lot of things can be drawn back to money. And the example that we use is water bottles. I drink as much water as anybody, but why do we have water bottles? Because we know the water bottles can't be recycled, and they're going to eventually sit on the earth forever. So why do we have them? Why doesn't the government say, you know what, we're not going to do this to our country and to our planet, so let's just outlaw them? Well, there's a reason behind that we're not, is because they make a lot of money from the bottle companies. The bottle companies making a lot of money, and they contribute to different campaign funds, and we still have water bottles. Kind of looking in some of the stuff later on, the borrower is the slave to the lender. Ladies and gentlemen, debt is not God's way. And I know that we do live in a world now where debt is kind of an essential thing, but it's not God's way. It's not of God to be in debt. There's ways to get out of debt that we're going to talk about that will help you out and help you to become a little bit better of a steward of your money. Now, there are some good things, though, and he does kind of talk to us about what happens when you do. And it says, "Who then is faithful and wise manager, whom his master will set over his household to give them the portion of the food at the proper time?" So just that idea of being a good and faithful and wise manager. Okay, and once God sees that you're going to be a good manager of the money, and it says here that he's talking about giving them the putting them over the household. God, of course, we use this one a lot. Philippians 9:4, there's lots of things in there, but 4:19 says, "And my God will supply my every need of all yours according to His riches and glory." So, you got to have faith that He's going to provide for us. The wise, once again, there's that wise word. Talk about that a lot today. Have wealth and luxury, but fools spend whatever they got. I feel like I'm that fool sometimes. And then we have the parable of the talents. And if you know this, then I'm not going to go into great detail about it, but just, master left 3 servants, with one who gave 5 talents, one who gave 2 talents, and one who gave 1 talent. And each of the ones that he gave 5 and 2, they took those and, kind of in modern day terms, invested them or traded them or made the money work for them. And when the master returned, they had doubled what he had left them. And he said, very well, I will put you over many things. Whereas the one that only had one, kind of his fear of the master and not losing it, just buried it in the field. So when the master came back, he was very proud of himself and said, look, I've still got one left. And what actually happened was, the master was kind of embarrassed and mad at him. He said, you fool, you just took this and didn't do anything with it. So I think God gives us things, and gives us, not just talking about money, but I mean gifts and talents and all those things, and they're not for us just to sit on and bury and stand before him one day and go, look, I took this ability that you gave me and I didn't do anything with it. He wants us to be out doing things. But talking about some of this financial steward stuff is that this is, he will put us over things and make us, kind of that vessel, meaning what he puts into us, he expects to go out of us. So it's very good to do. At this time, I'd recommend pausing the video, take just a few minutes, and kind of write down a couple goals. One being what you'd like to get out of this. It says class, but kind of this video of the day. A general financial goal, and just a promise to God, because he'll honor what we want to do for him. So I'd hit pause at this time, and then we'll jump back in. All right, so first and foremost, when we talk about being a good steward of our money, we got to talk about giving and tithing. Now, in the Bible, there's, 10% is pretty much the standard when it comes to tithing. And that means 10% of what you bring home should go to him. In the Old Testament, they're talking about giving of their 10% of their crops as a sacrifice and all those things to God. So the way to look at that is, take your income and the first 10%, just go ahead and take that off the top. And instead of saying, man, I lost that 10%, it's, more like it's not even there. I mean, it's really to honor God, and it should be his from the get-go. There shouldn't be any issue of, if I give it or not. Now, I've said this before, but it's really easy to look at this and think, if I don't pay my tithes, nobody's going to send me a red letter in the mail saying, hey, you have to pay your tithes. I mean, some churches might, and if they do, that's just different than I'm used to things. But I know that in my past and some different people I've talked to, when you start having financial struggles and you're not being a good steward of your money, one of the first things that goes away is that 10% tithing. Okay, and when you got bills due and you've overspent in clothes, or you've went out and spent too much money in the weekend, tithing is really easy to get rid of. And we kind of have that flip-flopped. I mean, that needs to be the first thing that comes out, and we almost can build our budget, with around that. And don't think of it in a way of, because, if you're looking at it, I'm doing this so God will provide me with things, that's not really what it's about. Kind of the intent of your heart needs to be, God, I'm giving you this because I love you and I want to honor you with my money. And I'm thankful and I appreciate you giving me a job and the money that I can make and the abilities to do these things. And this is my kind of way of honoring you and saying thank you to you. So don't even think about how much it's costing you. Just do it. All right. I'm going to talk about giving, and notice giving is a little bit different. All right. It's outside of your tithing. Can you give more money than you are giving now? I mean, how much could you give if money wasn't an issue? So as we go through this, begin to think about, if I was out of debt and I didn't have, all these burdens that I have, could I give more money? And I'm talking about giving to a church. I'm talking about giving to charities. I'm talking about giving to people. We use the example in class that if you were such a wise steward of your money and you were able to save up, get yourself out of debt, and pay for your house, then that $700 house payment that you got can be going towards, somebody that needs a house. So why couldn't you help them kind of get that ball rolling? And, thinking about how much can you really give? Something that God kind of checked me on is when you don't tithe, you not only rob God, but you rob yourself, your family, your friends, and your church. You also open the door to let the enemy into one of the most vital assets that God gives us. So, and don't give him that foothold. Do your part. All right, so some just really basic things that you need to know. This is really some common sense stuff that I think most of you probably already know. If you don't, then this is just going to be some, like I said, very basic common sense things. There's some things that really works when it comes to having money, making money, accumulating wealth, whatever you want to call it. First and foremost is working hard. There's no way around that. And I'm not just talking about getting out there and swinging a sledgehammer and sweating your butt off. I'm talking about just being a hard worker and understanding that money doesn't just fall out of the sky, you know, and a lot of times you got to go out and work for it. Now, if God promises you things, I have seen money, show up at people's houses and all that stuff, but there's an aspect of work that needs to be instilled in people. There's a lot of ways out there that tell you how to make money. One of the best things is when you buy things cheaper than you can sell them for, that's pretty smart. So think about that. Save up before you buy something. You'd be amazed how many times this is just basic wisdom that will help you out tremendously. If you want something, save up the money to buy it instead of going out and running and putting it on a credit card. Or, if you want a new refrigerator, instead of going to Best Buy and them saying, hey, you get 6% interest or 6 months interest free, instead of just jumping in there and buying that fridge, go home and save up. Take 4 or 5 months, save up $900 and go buy it. And then when you buy it, it's yours, and you don't have to worry about payments and interest and all the other stuff. When you're not using something, sell it. That refrigerator that you got sitting there, start selling stuff. Or say you want a new pair of shoes. Well, you have 6 pairs of shoes in your closet that you haven't worn in a long time. Somebody gave you $5 or $6 or $10 a pair for those shoes. That's $5-10 a pair. That can go toward your new pair of shoes. So Ramsey talks about that a lot. Is sell everything. So, and then some things that don't work. And like I said, it's still some common sense things. If it's a get rich quick scheme, if somebody's got something for you that, man, if we do this, we're gonna make a lot of money. Unless you're getting into some of these, like buying things cheaper than you can sell them for, and I don't recommend doing this on credit. I mean, this is a good reason to have something saved up to do, but the get rich quick schemes, if it's too good to be true, guess what? It's probably not true. All right, multi-level marketing. Some of these there's some different ones, but kind of about how you go into them. We went into one time with the idea that I was fixing to leave my job and be able to make a living doing this, and I was going to make 6 figures getting other people to invest their money, and just stay away from those things, guys. There's better ways to make money. Pyramids have been gone for a little while, but if you ever get encountered by one, stay away from it. And as much as you can do to avoid credit cards, guys, it's a good idea. So Ramsey teaches, and this is kind of talking about a little bit what we're going to be diving into today, the importance of baby steps and not trying to just, finish this video and then, get in your bank account and be debt free in like 2 months, or completely flip everything around in 2 hours. It's just not going to work, guys. You got to do some little baby steps. The first thing that he talks about is getting $1,000 in your savings account. And that's to safeguard you from different things that might come up. If you have $1,000 in your account and then you start paying things off, pretty much $1,000 is going to help you with this whatever type of little emergency pops up. $1,000, if your alternator goes out in your car, you've got the money there to fix it. You don't have to rely on dipping into the budget or putting on a credit card. Your refrigerator goes out, like I said earlier, I mean, that's $900, but look, if you have this in your savings account, you can buy that fridge. Or honestly, what you're probably going to do is look for a used fridge for $200-300, and you still have money in your savings account, and you're not diving into the budget too much. The next step is to pay off all debts except for your house. Now, the 2 in the red are what we're kind of going to focus on today. The rest of this stuff is great, but it is not the focus for today. 3 to 6 months of income in an emergency fund is an absolutely amazing idea. Now, for most couples, that's going to be anywhere from like $6,000 to $20,000, depending on how you're doing. If you imagine having this, let's just meet in the middle and say you've got $12,000 sitting in a savings account somewhere, that's going to take care of like 90% of your problems. I mean, at $12,000 in your account, you could go wreck your car and the next day go buy a car and pay for it in cash. And I'm not talking about a $20,000 car. I'm talking about go buying, $4, $5, $10,000 car, even $10,000, and be able to buy it and then get that emergency fund going again. That's going to safeguard you from a lot of things, guys. And then he kind of gets into more of the looking into the future things, which is not our focus for today, but are still good things that we all need to kind of strive towards. So the system that they use is called cash flow. And this is a system that I chose to kind of talk the most about. And because it teaches you to look at your bring home budget and kind of know what percentage of that budget you can really afford. Now, I just want to go ahead and throw this out there and say this. The banks are not looking out for your best interest. They want to make money. The car dealerships are not looking out for your best interest. They want to make money. All right, that is the root of all kinds of evils. Another way for you just to get smacked in the back of the head is they want to make money. Okay, so when you start looking at these, when you go to buy a house, they're going to tell you how much of a house you can afford based on your gross income. Well, this looks a little bit different. This looks how much of a house you can afford with your bring home, and that's looking at debts that you have and looking at putting money back into savings for like house repairs and all that stuff and thinking ahead and doing some of those things. So some of the percentages look like this. You can see number one, charitable giving, and that includes tithing. And you notice every one is like 10 to 15% or 5 to 10%, 25 to 30%. There's some variance in it, guys, because we all have different situations and we all have different ways of living. And also, look at number 11. Some of those might throw you off just a little bit. If you got a lot of debt over your head, these things are going to be a little bit different. Then some people may not have, 2 car payments. You might be lucky enough to have 1 car paid off or both of them paid off. So we'll kind of go into some of these things a little bit more now. Now let me say also some other budgeting things that I've heard that use the percentages. Some people plan on taking like 40% or even 30% of their bring home and putting it into a savings account for tithing and giving and savings. So they start planning their entire budget, okay, with this. And notice here, if you had 15 there and 10 there, then you're talking about 25%. But some talk about having 30% off the top. So there's different ways to do it. Now, I like to use this Excel spreadsheet that I will post along with this video that I did not make, but somebody else made. But what it does is it uses those exact same categories here, and it tells how much each one is. So let's just say that your household brings in $4,000 a month. Now, as you're building your budget down through this column, okay, it's going to tell you here what percentage you're going to be doing. So if we want to be in that 10 to 15, let's just say that we're giving $400 a month, and it's going to tell you right there that that is 10%. Okay, and then as you go down through here, you say that you are to a place where you're wanting to put some money in here, and you're putting back $100 in the emergency fund. Well, it's going to tell you here that that's only 2.5%, but let's just say you're putting 200 into retirement and 200 into college fund. Now, that's going to vary for everybody depending on what you're doing. So let's just assume that for today, that we're actually focusing on, the tithing and giving stuff. And then here, let's just say we're putting back, like I said, $100. So we don't want to be too much on it. Now, you start looking at your first mortgage. Hopefully you don't have multiple mortgages. Some people do, and that's fine. So let's just say your house payment's going to be around $800 a month, and that's for a house about $150,000 to $170,000 a year, or $150,000 to $170,000 to buy the house. Now, the $800 may or may not include the escrow and all that stuff. So if it does, then you can just leave it there. If it doesn't, then there's areas here to put the different things in there. Now, this is some of these things in yellow, which are kind of, if you can, if you can afford to put back a little bit of money for furniture replacement, that is very, very smart. Go ahead and drop an extra 20 bucks a month in there, or 50 bucks a month or something like that. You got to think, if you were able to put back like 50 bucks a month into a furniture replacement fund, that's going to give you, let's see, 100 bucks would be 20, so 1,200 bucks. Oh, that's not right. 600 bucks a year to replace things as needed, and you're not getting your budget. But anyways, you can put all those things there. Utilities, let's say your electric bill runs you around 150 a month average, which I know is pretty cheap. Let's say 25 on utilities. I don't know what your gas situation is. It usually kind of varies. Probably don't have a phone, but you probably do have a cell phone. And let's just say your cell phone bill runs you about 200 bucks a month, which is pretty reasonably close to what things are. All right. And then you got to have a gas can to put your gas, not your gas, your trash, sorry. And we probably have got cable, or let's just say we got internet and we're streaming. So we're looking at about 75 for internet. Okay. So our percentage is up a little bit higher here. So there's some different things to look at there. And then as you go down through there, groceries, let's just say you spend 150 bucks a week, and that's going to be 600 bucks a month. And then you're going to go, I don't know, go out to eat once a week. Take family out, so it's going to be 30 bucks. So it's going to be 120 bucks there. All right, and that kind of shows you what that percentage is. So maybe you need to trim up just a little bit and drop down and do 125 at the grocery, and that's going to get you a little bit closer there. Now, put your car payments in here. Let's just say you got one car payment at 300 and one at 200. All right, so as you can see, it's starting to build in here kind of what these percentages are so that you know. Now, this is where you can be as tight or as loose as you want to be. These are recommended percentages that are very good to live by. So, I'm at 12.5%, but, up here in the utilities, I was at 12.4. So you might say, man, I really want to be within that 10%. Well, if that's the case, then you need to go to your cell phone company and go, I need to pay off some of these phones and start throwing some money at that. And, get your bill down to about 180 bucks. And then now you're a little bit closer. Internet, do I need this much speed or whatever it is, but you don't have to. It's kind of up to you. So anyways, it goes down through clothing. We don't think about that very much, but it's a good idea to budget every month for how much money you want to spend on clothing. A lot of people probably don't have these type things because you have insurance, so you can punch them in there, but you don't have to. But notice if you don't, then hey, look at that, you're saving some of this. Getting into personal babysitting, toiletries, cosmetics, hair care. If you're spending money on a babysitter and it's costing you 100 bucks a week, that's 400 bucks a month, and that doesn't seem like, it seems like a lot, but really, if you are watching this and you have kids, you know that that's not very much. Kind of look at what you spend in cosmetics and hair care. I know that can be expensive pretty quick. And notice down here, there's this awesome column. Okay, miscellaneous and blow money. Blow money is very, very important. It's really important that on this, you understand that God still wants you to live, and you still need to have a life. So, budget some money for you and the wife, or whatever you want to do, to split up 50 bucks a piece per week just to go blow on whatever. Maybe you don't have a babysitter, so that helps. So then, if that's the case, then you can do, 100 bucks each in this column, and you're still staying within a good percentage. Then recreation, plan on going to the movies, plan on going out and doing different things to start putting money back into that. And then all this stuff, which we'll talk about all this later. Now, what this sheet will do for you is, if you want to do it all at one time, let's just say that 4,000 is what you bring in here. Okay, it's going to keep a running total for you here and show you how much money is left. So, like I said, you pay your $400 ties right off the bat, drop $100 into savings, and see if you see everything that I'm putting in there is dropping off that. I'm paying for my rent or my mortgage, and then I'm paying for my utilities, And you can see that everything I put in, like I said, it's going to automatically take that out of there so that I am keeping track of how much money I'm spending. All right, and you can do this kind of as you go. So you went to the grocery for the month, you went and took out some cash to go get yourself some food, you went ahead and paid your car payment. Okay, gas is expensive, so yeah, I don't know, let's just say in a month you might spend 150 in gas between you and your wife. Okay, so you can see, we're kind of getting down here. One thing that Ramsey does with this cash flow system is you're looking at zero balance. So at the end of it, you want it to be a zero. So we go down through here. Car insurance is always, a beast, depending on who you go through. So let's say $75 a month. Let's just say you're gonna spend $50 on the kids for clothes, and between the two of you, you get $100 on that. You get your blow money down here. You decided to do $200. All right, so you can see that things are gonna start going away. You have your cosmetics. I don't know how much you're gonna spend, $30 a month maybe. So things are going down. So as you can kind of look, like right here, we're at $500 left. Plan on taking the family out to some movies and stuff like that. So there's that. So you got $350 left, which is good. But then as you can see, when you start having some of these things in here, this is when things can start getting ate up pretty quick, and you have to start sacrificing some other things. So that is the cash flow Excel spreadsheet that I found, and you can kind of punch all your numbers in and see where you are and kind of what you're looking at. And like I said, you put your income in there, and then everything kind of goes down to give you the percentage, and then this is your actual spent column that keeps up with everything for you.